personal story about how this
please.
affected me before the law went into effect. I think I was covered under my father's insurance until the age of 23, and I was still a student at UNI because I changed my major from music ed to political science my senior year. A great time to do that. It made great financial sense. And so I was in school for a while. And so I lost my insurance at the age of 23. And then when I was 24, I still had access to UNI Health Clinic for basic needs, which was a good thing. But then when I was 24, I had taken time off from school to work for the election for the year. And I had gotten pneumonia that summer. And, I had to go, at first, I put it off as long as I could. I was still out knocking doors as much as I could because I really hated George Bush. I wanted to get rid of him really badly. But then finally, it was to the point I had to go up to the emergency room. And so I went to the emergency room here at Satori, and then they gave me a prescription, but then a week later I still wasn't better. I ended up at the urgent care clinic that Alan had at the time. I think it was Covenant had. And this was no insurance. I had 2 prescriptions for Zithromax, I believe, which is kind of a costly prescription when you don't have insurance. As well as the great irony that if you don't have insurance, you've got no bargaining power behind how much you pay for the services. So you're paying the top rate because you don't have anybody representing you. And so between those 2 bills, I think it was just about $2,000 for those 2 visits. And of course, I was young. I was working a job that didn't have health insurance, and it was a relatively low-wage job. So it was money that I didn't have at the time. So of course, that goes in the collection. It stays on your credit. I wasn't able to pay it off until I got my first real job of working when years later when I had health insurance. And so that getting sick once really damages you and follows you for a number of years. And there's multiple ways that impacts you, not just your health, but your financial health. And that's not like the doom and gloom kind of story of like a serious illness, but that's how something relatively common can really impact someone and follow them for a couple of years. And it's something that really shouldn't happen in this country.
Anybody else want to share anything or questions?
Let me just add, it's important to keep in mind that while the debate around the Affordable Care Act seemed to drag on forever during the summer, and there were a lot of misinformation about what those changes would mean. And even today, there's still some question of the public acceptance of the Affordable Care Act as a concept. But if you look at the changes that were actually made, students being able to stay on their parents' insurance, pre-existing conditions no longer means you're excluded from actually getting insurance in the first place. A lot of vaccines and other preventative care that are available and affordable even if you don't have insurance. If you ask people about the individual changes that affect their lives, they wanted those changes. When it becomes an abstract political discussion about health care, people are out of sorts when it comes to whether or not they support it. Keep in mind, though, that many of the changes were phased in. We tried to address the immediate problems, and then over the medium and long term, make health care work better for people. An example of that is being able to actually find insurance if you don't now have it, because much of it is through the employers. Is there really a market for insurance? And the answer was no. So in 2014, they're going to set up healthcare exchanges where you'll be able to go shop for healthcare, and there will be an ability to purchase it. If it's not provided by the market, then it'll be through the public model. And all of those changes over time, I think, will provide benefits to Americans that many of us have wanted. And there's no reason why the wealthiest country on the planet can't also be the healthiest.